How's it going? We're going to go into a blank page this time. And this time, I'm just going to kind of do a Godzilla from scratch. And that's pretty much it. Nothing too wild. But I'm just going to talk my way through it and kind of hopefully you'll learn a lot along the way. So, pretty much what I'm doing right now is I'm drawing in just with pencil. I'm more or less just kind of sketching it in. I've kind of talked about this before, but when you are when you're first kind of learning this stuff, you really want to think in simple shapes first, and that's kind of what I have in my head. It doesn't mean I'm like doing this like I'm not thinking about that. I'm absolutely thinking about that as we're doing this. I'm totally thinking about simple shapes, but I'm just scribbling it in there to kind of get like a feel for the general pose, and then I can kind of go in afterward and figure it out. But right now, all I'm doing is scribbling stuff in, and I'll kind of get to it later. A lot of stuff in his back looks like ninja stars. I know there's like different ways to do that. Some versions look like mountains, I think in that new version, it actually looks like mountains in general. But yeah, again, just kind of putting in my just general stuff because it's just going to be Godzilla standing there. So let's see what else. I want to shrink his head a little bit, though. It looks a little bit big. All right, let's just see here. I'm honestly going to consider this like a quick sketch in general. I'm more or less just kind of, I think his head might be a little too big. That's all right. I might actually go back and forth between the pencil and not. So let's go in here. I'm going to go right in with a pen. Right in there. Then I'm going to go over here, find the front of the brow, kind of go backward over here, and more or less kind of go down. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the general line work there, just like some sort of perimeter so that I can kind of go into it later on. It doesn't have to be ultra accurate or anything like that. I just want a little bit of a thin line that's pen so I can start ditching the pencil stuff, right? It doesn't have to be super, super accurate. Going over here, like the skin portion, right? Like when you look at Godzilla, same thing with like dinosaurs. There's kind of this like skin right there in the actual, how do you say this? When they open the mouth, there's a layer of skin. I still don't know what that's called. I've kind of looked it up and I don't know if there's any official name for it. You want to throw in little teeth over here. Teeth are going to be just, moderately sized for Godzilla. Like the proportions, he's got pretty small teeth in proportion to the rest of his face. I want to make this look a little bit like there's some depth to it, so I'm going to add the back row of teeth over there and maybe tongue over here on this side. Right on. Going to go over here, the throat. That's something no one ever puts in. You want to put in like the throat going down because when they eat, it goes downward. It connects it to the rest of the body as well. Pulling in over here. All right. Let's see. Gonna go draw a couple of the spikes over here in his back. Nothing wild. They're gonna kind of overlay each other, but I'm not really gonna go that hardcore into it right now. I'm just putting in some general shapes. Going down over here to the kind of torso area. His arm is gonna be back here, and I need his arm a little bit. See, I have to move that. The arm has to be a little bit closer to the body right there. Pulling down. Get like that meaty portion of, what do you call it? The forearm. Going back over here. And let's go over here and get the other arm on this side as well. Kind of going over here and over here. Pulling down. Because somebody asked me to do like one entire drawing, right? Normally I kind of like check in, pull out like a sketch page, and I kind of add to it. But somebody was asking me like, hey, can you do one from beginning to end? So that's kind of what this is. Throwing in stuff for the hand over here in the palm. See, the wrist should be a little bit thinner, but whatever. We'll let that pass. Posing thumb over here. Line. Right on. Let's go over here to the shoulder, and then we're going to have the back, right? It's going to go kind of, he's got a pretty big back. I don't want to make it too big. But normally, I guess in a perfect world, it'd be like a way bigger back, but I'm like, it's fine. Right here, finding the legs, finding the lower stomach area, the lower torso over here, and then finding the back leg. We just kind of want to, we got to put the other hand over here. Dang, I forgot about that. Gonna go over here, pull up for the wrist. Trying to make it look like it matches that hand right there. So that's going to be not tough, but it's going to be interesting. Let's see here. Something like that. Putting in that hand there. Looks a little bit too big for that wrist, so I'm going to make the arm a little meatier. Let me pull it down right there. There you go. Thicken out the whole arm in general. All right, pulling down. Okay, it's pretty good. Let's zoom into the face real fast. I want to zoom in, and then I'm going to go into like just some more regular detail here in the face. It is Godzilla. Thanks, Alibus. All right, over here. Okay, let me get rid of some of the lines here on the face with a kneaded eraser. I always use a kneaded eraser, by the way. I don't really use anything else. I think the other erasers like either leave a stain in there or they're just not that good. Okay, let's go. And all right, gonna go over here now, pulling down. See, let's throw a few little lines right here. I'm kind of thinking of like what is scales and what is kind of like actual structure, right? Like his ear is probably behind it right there, like a little slit right there for the ear, kind of like the way, lizards have. Maybe throwing in some more bumps over here so he's got some tension in his face. Same thing over here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to like give it a little bit of tension right there. That's pretty much what I'm fishing for. I'm like, okay, what's it look like if he looks like he's straining his face? I think his jaw, it's weird at this angle, his jaw looks too big, but it doesn't look that big on camera. I don't know why it looks like in real life. Let me see. I might cut that down just a bit here then. Or kind of lengthen this over here a little as well. You're kind of repairing them as we're going into them, Let's see, back of the jaw. Going over here, drawing in like a darker line underneath, just more or less just kind of scratching these lines in. Almost like, that's kind of like a quick sketch thing almost. You're kind of scratching stuff in. Like just give it a directional kind of flow. And as long as it has that directional flow, those are good notes for later. And that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give myself notes for later on when I'm going to kind of, go into it a little bit more in the fashion that I want. Let's go over here, the arm. See, down over here, right there. See, I'm kind of reading these notes that I put for myself, and I'm like, okay, what will be going on here? Same thing, back. The deep end of the mouth is going to be darker. And maybe about till it hits the tongue, and then maybe there's going to be some indication here for the tongue. And right now I'm just scratching it in, right? Just scratching it. Totally scratching it in there. All right, that's too dark. Going over here to the kind of the cheekbone, which I think it's called a jugo bone on lizards, I believe, or dinosaur. I can't remember, or both. Gonna go over here now. I'm scratching in this. Again, just kind of scratching in notes for myself to kind of figure out like what are the next steps that I want to do. What is it that I want to kind of get accomplished in this or not. I guess I want him to kind of look like he's shocked. I guess he needs an eye though, right? So he's got kind of a, dang, it looks a little animated, but oh well. I mean, he kind of has like a normal eye, I think, right? He definitely doesn't have like a slit pupil or nothing. All right, let's go over here. Trying to put a little bit more structure into the head. Oops, look, see that? I smeared that a little bit. You have to watch out for stuff like that. It's only because I'm trying to draw as quick as I can. Go over here now. Let's see. Figuring out, again, kind of the direction of lines where they would go, because there'd be some coming off over here, right? Like the actual, where the teeth are dug into the mouth there. And let's see over here. Let's get this a little bit darker. I want to throw a little bit of focus into the face. There we go. And then I want to throw a little bit more focus back here into the teeth, or the deep portion of the mouth. Right on. And all right. I don't know if you saw, if anybody was here from the beginning, but I'm just trying to draw Godzilla from scratch, just to have one there, to make it simple. I mean, just to have like a full demo of one. Line over here. Okay, we're throwing in little curves because I know there's little curves in his face, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. And it's interesting too, because normally you don't want to do this for, like, let's say human characters, because it ages them, right? Unless they're like actually old people, like full-blown old people. You're normally trying to watch out for this, but right here with just kind of general dinosaurs, or Godzilla, you're kind of going wild with all the folds and the little stuff going on there. And that's kind of been that's kind of why I like drawing them so much. You can just go nuts with the little craggly details, and it's like I said, it's probably one of the funnest things for me in general. So like even right now, it's like this is like the way I like to draw. I just like to draw stuff like this. It just makes it simpler for me. It makes it funner. I can add stuff to it, and it won't like totally destroy it. And that's just something that, yeah, you got to find your thing. All right, it's looking all right, I guess. Let me see. I might zoom out a little bit in a minute here. I want to throw a little bit of detail up there. Obviously, he's going to have scales all over the place. Thank you so much for the, was it a casserole? What is it? Thank you so much. Oh, yeah, I eat casserole from, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for the gift. Curve, curve, curve. Putting in over here, finding this little kind of weird mountain shapes in his back. And I want him to look a little bit more like those royal, what do you call it? Those royal spikes where they're coming out all over the place. Normally, I try to plan them out more, but I'm just going to go like that. Well, okay, I got to zoom out a little bit. 1 minute. Let me zoom out. There we go. Sweet. Let me go over here to the lower jaw. Right here. There we go. Kind of give kind of similar detail to the lower jaw that I gave to the upper jaw. And it's just like little, you can tell, right? It's just little spots. And as you zoom out, it's like, oh, okay, like looks like it's creating something, right? It looks like it's something's going on, but it's really just these little scratches and little spots that are going on. All right, on. Right here. Kind of same thing. Probably a little bit more shadow catching. I'm probably gonna like get a little bit darker with this shadow because I want it to stand out more. It needs to be kind of more solid, at least where it's touching, because I want them to have that side of the jaw like that. And then it can kind of dissipate into, scratchiness. But I need that part of it to be solid first. Okay, we're gonna go over here. Curve, curve, curve. This rock is not pleasing me right there, whatever this is, this spike. Even just a general shape. Okay, that's all right. Cool. It's going pretty good. I'm throwing in a couple little scales as I go down, just in general, to have it. Sweet. Thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Curve. And we can always like backpedal, right? And we can always go back up to his face if we want. But right now I want to kind of keep going a little bit. Well, okay, let's go back into his face a little bit. Let's keep going a little bit lower. Let me see. Let's zoom out a little bit. Is that as far as I can zoom out? I think so. All right. Face looking aight. Nothing wild. I didn't pick a wild pose. I just picked like a, pretty standard pose where he's just chilling out there, looking around, or like, kind of shocked by something. You can always, and I've talked about this before, you can always like create your own, even if it's a simple pose like this, you can create your own scenario. Is he fighting jet planes? Maybe I can throw some there. what would he be fighting? Would he be fighting one of the other kaiju, right? Trying to make this shape, this snake belly on his chest right here, and this whole torso, front of his torso. I'm trying to make that not generic. I'm actually trying to make it, vary it up, because if it doesn't vary up, it's gonna look too flat. It's gonna look like a cartoon, like total like kids cartoon dragon or something. And you don't want that. You want it to look just kind of like, I don't know. You just want to mix up that shape. But again, a lot of what I'm doing here is made up of like scratches and stuff like that. Like I'm just scratching in a lot of details and finding my way. So I am mostly, I would say, I'm mostly working on instinct right now. And I've talked about this before. If you guys didn't see one of my other ones, but when you're drawing, you tend to really think super hard about something, or you're working from your instinct, meaning you're like stored experience that you're working from. So that's why we do stuff like quick drawings, quick sketches versus long drawings. Long drawings are where you really think stuff out and you're really learning and you're trying to practice that. Quick sketches is a lot of that stuff as well, but quick sketches engages a different part of what's going on. It engages kind of what you know already, because you got to put it down immediately. So it's kind of engaging like a little bit of a different skill set. That's why some people are really good at quick sketch, and it's rare when someone's good at quick sketch and not good at long drawing, because they have all that time. But it's pretty common for people to be good at long drawing and terrible at quick sketch. I've seen that like a lot, So you just gotta pick. I mean, you gotta pick both, really. I mean, I would say, like, if you really want to work on it, and like go find like life drawing classes, and they'll almost always do quick sketches. They'll be like, okay, draw the body, 2 minutes. Like, and you have to do them like all small, and you're working really quick, and the whole point is to kind of get that in there and have that that ability in your arsenal. I'm gonna go over here, throw a little bit more just random texture on his back. Oh dang, I gotta really okay, let's see this. I gotta really figure out the spikes a little bit more. I'm not gonna go over like counting every spike, although if you do go to the free section here if you go to the free section here, I think on Gumroad, I give out a Godzilla head drawing lesson for free. It's over there. If you check, it's like worksheets that you literally like follow. But if you ever want to go do that, go check it out. All right, pulling ear. I'm gonna do them for like the body as well, I think. Like later on. Dang, I don't like the shape of that. See that? That looks weird. Okay, cool. Again, since I'm doing these on the fly, I'm kind of like, all right, kind of sorting out the detail as I go. All right. Let's put a little bit there. It's gonna get some variety going on. And over here in the back. There you go. Curve. Right on. And same thing on the arms. And this is just a preliminary texture, by the way, I'm putting. I'm gonna totally go back into that. But I'm just throwing this scribbly, quickie texture on there. Same thing goes over here. Again, most of this is going to probably be scribbles even up until the end, maybe. Haven't decided yet. Because sometimes doing scribbly stuff has a different appearance. So, yeah. Yeah, that can totally change right there. There we go. Alrighty, curve over here. Dang, if I was gonna put more like different nuanced detail, I'd put like spikes on his elbow, but I'm like, nah, that's not Godzilla. I mean, there's a version of him, right, that has that, but okay, just taking a little look at it. All right, I gotta get into this spike. This spike is nada right now. Nothing's going on. It's just a blank, like, it looks like, what do you call it? Like those cookie cutter cutout things, so I gotta throw something to mess it up. Like texture, you gotta throw something right here to kind of do that. So one thing that I would encourage you to do is, if you can't find any quick sketches and stuff like that, you can time yourself. Do something for an hour, right? Draw whatever you want for an hour. I don't know, and then time yourself for 15 minutes. They have like videos on that, of course, where people do that, and just try that on your own. Just be strict with it and see what comes out. See if if you can do it or not, because that's gonna do a lot as well for your kind of basically your recall ability. What it's gonna do for you, and I've said this before, what it's gonna do for you is if it comes out okay or like decent in like 5 minutes, you're like, oh wow, it's gonna kind of open you up and you're gonna be more confident. You're like, oh wow, I can do that, and it's really gonna change your perspective on what you do and how you learn, or how what it takes to learn. It's gonna change you. It really will. And let's just say you can't do it, it'll just kind of like show you the weaknesses that you might have. So just kind of, you got to keep trying this sort of stuff. You got to keep testing the system there in order to kind of get it working there. All right, that's a little bit better right here. So now we're getting into a territory where I always talk about on here. And now I'm trying to figure out, what do I push forward and what do I pull back? Some of these are more back into space. How do I do that? Should I put little tiny nicks and marks behind this spike to make it go backward? I could do that. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm throwing little tiny marks. I can't make it go that far back in space, but I got to make it a little bit darker. And this one behind here will probably be a little bit darker than that. You're gonna have to like figure out like what looks closer to the camera, what doesn't. You don't have to. You could totally leave it like that, but I mean, to kind of make it look a little like less flat, in general, a good idea is to kind of go into it like that and go like, okay, how do I make this? Like right here, we're gonna draw a spike in the back, and maybe we'll make it really dark, right? These things are like on the far side of them. There you go. Far side of him. There we go. Sweet. All right. It's all right. It's coming along all right. Let me do something else. Let me go. Dang. All right. It's a lot of scribblies. Let me kind of go a little bit more solid, I would say. I would say a little bit more solid around this area, but I think the eyes. Let me go back into the eye. Let's zoom back into the face real fast. That's funny. Let's see. That's funny. Nah, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. So, anyways, okay. So, a question came up lately. Somebody asked this. They said, "Do you need art school?" Right? I've answered this question a couple of times. I'm changing my answer over and over now. So, I've changed my answer. What I used to say was, "No, you don't need art school." That's what I used to say until I realized I needed art school, and that's pretty much how you can fast track a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of different little caveats to that, though. It's got to be a decent art school. You have to be able to. They have to have produced stuff that you like, and you're like, oh wow, that actually is really good. And if you do like that, working with them will make you much, much, much better faster. It's just like a fast forward button, because you have somebody there live watching you, and they're kind of like, oh, you're doing that wrong, instead of just kind of going like, I don't know what went wrong. Like, and I got to send this into somebody on YouTube, or I got to do this or whatever. It's like, I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? Instead of waiting for that whole process, you literally have somebody there in real life going, no, that's wrong. And then they show you like, no, this is how you do it, blah, blah, blah. Right? They'll give you the exactly what's wrong. So we'll speed it up if it's a good enough school. Like if you like the work they produce, because even if they don't know how to teach it that great, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. But even if you don't think, I don't know, if they produce stuff, it's gonna rub off no matter what. You're gonna see them create stuff. Usually demos are a big thing too. Usually that's a big one. Almost every school I ever went to, they do a demonstration for you. That happened at Art Center. That happened at my first art school with life drawing. They almost always do a demo. If they don't, I mean, I guess it's just not that kind of class, but it lets you know I don't know, when you see it made in front of you like that, like your teacher doing it like almost every day, it's like, wow. It also it kind of does something to your mind. It just kind of goes, "Oh, okay, this is possible. This literally happened in front of me. He just did this, and I saw the way he moved his hand there." It's way different than seeing it online. I mean, I feel so that's why. The other thing that art center did, at least, as far as art school goes, art center when I went there, and I was already kind of trained and I was already working, but I just hit a wall and I couldn't get by it. The thing that art center did is art center in Pasadena, they kept me accountable, which I just could not do on my own. And honestly, I still found it hard to do that on my own, to hold myself account. Like, I'm going to finish this and actually do it. That's still pretty hard for me, to be honest. Dang, I don't know if I like that jaw. Let me see. Let me see. It's all right. I give this thing a C, maybe. Yeah, it's okay. But what's it called? Yeah, art center makes you accountable, meaning they have you finish what you do. So like you're like working on a illustration, right? And you're thinking, oh no, like I have to, like you basically work on it, you get fatigued, like mentally fatigued, and then you're like, all right, well, trying to put it aside, and then you're like, oh, this thing's due tomorrow. I can't put it aside. Dang, dang. Work can do that as well to you, by the way. When you do like a gaming job or something like that, that's very similar as well. Where you're fatigued, but you're like, oh, I have to have this done by today. I guess forget fatigued, and you come up with either creative shortcuts or you just power through the fatigue. And then when you power through the fatigue, you just become better. You just become better at it. You just become better at controlling that. Like you just don't become as fatigued next time, and it can really help tremendously. But I mean, a school environment, if you're not working, obviously, in art, a school environment is probably the only place you're gonna get that. Um, I went to another school called what's it called? Concept Academy. That was a great school. The problem is there was no accountability there. You can just kind of sit through it and not do the projects, and it don't matter. It was just like 9 weeks, and if you could just not show up the last week, there's no like grading system. But when I was like an art center, there is a grading system, and you're going to be there next year. And if you don't finish it, you ain't moving ahead, and you're like, oh, I have to do this. So I think that's why that school had so many crazy, crazy good artists. It was like astounding. Like there was like 18-year-olds who were there straight from I think China, and a lot of people just flew in, and you're like they're already like amazing, and you're like, why is this person here? And they're just there for either some technical know-how or like connections or something. They're in it for that other part of it. All right, let's zoom out a little bit here. Zoom out. Come on. No, how do I zoom out? There we go. Whoopsie daisy. Right on. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's work on his forearm before we go back to all this spikes. This forearm over here, I want to there's going to be a shadow right here for the elbow, and then it's right here for the palm. And then kind of over here a little bit for the meaty portion of the arm right there. So the elbow is called a landmark. I don't know if you guys know that or not. A landmark is basically anywhere on the body where you see a bony protrusion, for example, like the forehead, or like the brows. It's dictated by the skeleton. So like the elbow is a landmark, but the meaty portion of the hand right here is not. It's all meat. You know what I mean? But maybe like the little is it the radius over here? Wait, is it the radius? No, it's the ulna on the outside bone, right? That would be a landmark as well. And what you do is you use those to find parts of the drawing. So I go right here, and like I know there's like a straight line in there. There's a straight bone in there, and that helps me find over here and make sense of it. That's what a landmark is, and it's used constantly. I constantly use landmarks just to kind of like make sense of my drawings and make them understandable. Curving over here, I'm wrapping around everything. I'm just literally just kind of wrapping lines at this point. Kind of willy-nilly, almost as like a primer, right? We're putting down like a primer, like a base right here of like quick cross-hatching. All right. Does he have I don't think he has a brachioradialis, right? I don't know. He might. I don't think he does. So brachioradialis is this muscle along the arm, and it wraps kind of from I think between the bicep and the tricep in the middle there. It's shoved over there, and it snakes around the forearm. You see it a lot on the forearm. If you ever look at Bruce Lee, for example, like old pictures of him, obviously, he's obviously deceased, but if you look at him, he had crazy brachioradialis. You can see him like it's an anatomy chart. It's like whoa, crazy. But yeah. So I was gonna say, look for that muscle right there. It wraps around the arm right there, and it looks good. It makes it look proper. It also just makes the drawing like the arm come together more, so it doesn't look like a big tube. I know it starts out as a tube in my mind, but you don't want it to like end up looking like a stiff tube. All right, over here, same thing over here. Just kind of curving and wrapping these lines around. All right. Let's go into the hand real fast. I don't know why everybody has such a big deal. I don't know. Everyone has such a hard time with the hands. I don't get. Well, I honestly don't get. Hey, what's up, Coop? Yeah, I don't know why everybody has a big issue with the hands. So, I mean, what I'm thinking of when I'm drawing his hands, because it's just from the side, I'm thinking of like the knuckles, and anything radiating off of that. So I'm thinking of the knuckles. Very, very another landmark, by the way. Really big in the hand right here. And I'm starting from the knuckles and zoom and kind of more or less working outward to kind of the meaty, fatty part of the fat pad of the hand. And I'm pulling it over here. And the way I like to think about the hand is I'm literally working with like these little tiny airbags of fat, more or less, that are just kind of decorating the hand and how they squish together. And I'm thinking of that more than I am the skeleton, to be honest. But I mean, the skeleton's part of it. There we go. Okay, so we got this finger sticking up, and then there's probably that's another finger I just kind of indicated back there, but now when I actually draw, indication is kind of what we're doing here in the spikes. In some areas, you're just putting in a quick note. It's either for yourself or for the audience. Some indications you can leave all the way to the very end and the finish, and then some indications are for your own use, and you can just kind of go back and you're like, okay, now I got to draw that entire hand there. This is the opposing thumb, right? Dang, okay, right here. So you have two fat pads on your hand, pretty much, and I always think about that split, so I'm not showing my whole hand. Right here, this right here, and right here. Like right here is obviously with the thumb, and then right here you have this longer one. But those are always, like, every time I say something like this is always on my mind when I'm drawing the item, right? So I'm just trying to say what's literally on my mind as I'm drawing right now. And so I'm thinking of the bottom fat pad right here. And that's literally what's going through my head. Okay, so I'm thinking, all right, fat pad slips into the joint. And kind of right there, the palm of the hand, there's another joint right there. Let's go over here now. Okay, I think the hand's pretty much done. I think he only has 4 fingers, right? 3 fingers? Sorry, yeah, he has 4 fingers. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm free drawing, and I'm just free. Thanks so much, Jay. Thanks. Yeah, I'm just free drawing for the heck of it. Sorry, no sherries. All right, and let's go over here. Pulling down. Do people really chat on these? Like, I mean, I would chat with my buddy maybe, but I'm like, I wouldn't do it with like anybody because I'm kind of like trying to think. But yeah, more or less, I'm just free drawing Godzilla from my mind. All right, let's see. Let's zoom out a little bit. 1 second. All right. It's all right. It's okay. Not bad for, I don't know how long it's been. It's okay. Let's go over here now. I want to make these spikes kind of move forward. So I'm probably going to put a little bit of dark back here, and I want to make this spike over here pop a little bit. Well, I know you probably hear that a lot, like pop. Pop is really all that is just really what that usually means is just high contrast. That's really what pop means, right? Where it's just kind of like, oh, like it's striking. It's very graphical shape. But when I say that, pop. All right, and then I probably want to put another spike down here in the middle because I feel like it needs it, like a little baby one or something. I feel like it needs it. Going over here, but everything you put down, you have to remember, you're like, "Oh, man, now I have to texture this thing," right? And I have to make some little bit of sense out of it. And I would say out of every part of Godzilla, his spikes can be the easiest, but they can also be the hardest, right? Easy in the sense that you don't really have to follow, like, a specific I mean, there's a general pattern, right, to the different versions of spikes that he has, but you don't have to follow it to a T. You can kinda more or less just kinda make it up. Um, where, like, his face and the rest of his body, you have to kinda I would say you kinda have to know a little bit more about human anatomy and, like, dinosaur anatomy or, like, lizard anatomy for the face, because that's definitely gonna help a lot for the face. But his body is very human-like because he's standing upright. I know that I think back in the day, he was based on the old version, right, of the T-Rex, because the T-Rexes, they used to think used to stand up. Like, this is all pre-90s, 50s. They used to think they should stand up and drag their tails, and that's kinda the posture he has. So I'm gonna guess I know they had a video about this too, like, what dinosaurs would he be based on? Clearly, the back is Stegosaurus. It's like some kind of mixture of Stegosaurus with, I guess, some form of T-Rex or a theropod. I know they were saying it might be, it's definitely a theropod for sure, but I can't remember which one they were saying. But yeah, fun stuff. Thanks so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Alrighty. Keep going here. Pulling down. Okay. Still looking around now. Now I'm just doing the scan. I'm looking at here. Okay. So I'm like, okay, what else can I improve on? So I'm constantly scanning other stuff right now, different parts of the drawing. What else can I improve on? As far as what's visible on camera, I guess we can keep going on these spikes. See, this is the part where, to me, can become tedious, and you're kind of like, oh, dang, now I gotta like texture all this stuff. For me, okay, so there's a few kinds of people, and a few kinds of artists, and I've gone back and forth between these types of artists. Okay, when I first started stuff, I had no greater pleasure than rendering, meaning shading. You know what I mean? I want to get to the shading immediately. Let's just get to the shading. Who cares about the design? Who cares about the design? Who cares about the design? I just want to get into the shading. Oh, the shading, you know what I mean? And then I would say after like a year, I'm like, you know what? I'm really more into the design, because the design is really, I think, what makes people like famous and stuff. Um, is the design. Even people like one of my favorite artists ever. Oh my god, something Raposa, Dave Raposa. He renders so well, but his designs are really good too. So it's not just that. If he only rendered terrible drawings, like let's just say the drawing, and that's been a debate forever, by the way. Let's just say your shading is nice, but the design is terrible, right? Is that still a good drawing? I mean, it can be for sure. I've seen them, but it's not going to get you work. I mean, what gets you work is your ideas and how you portray them through design. And that was kind of something that was missing out of my first school that I had. That was another thing. My first school only taught me the basics of general broad drawing, and they didn't teach me about design. That's something I had to learn at Art Center. A lot of that, I'll be honest, was really osmosis-y, like, learning from the other students as well that were there. Their stuff looked so like somebody would present like a drawing that's pretty similar to mine, and I'm like, that's not much better or worse. It's just kind of the same. But they'd present it in I don't know, like they put like a cool box here in the back or something, like they'd present it in a prettier fashion with better composition. And I'm like, whoa, that works. That works a lot. What are they doing? And it took me a long time to figure that out. And I still don't use it as much. I like designing through the character more than I do designing in the background, or like how it's presented. But maybe I should. I should probably get into, put like fancy stuff around it, or just one fancy box or something like that in the background. It kind of frames the whole image. And I know you've seen art like that. So basically, to conclude this part of it was I used to be really into shading. And now I'm way more into the just general design, like fooling around. And okay, hold on. A thought hit me right now. See this line right there? That shouldn't be just left that way. We can't just leave that to be boom, a single line. Something's gotta give. It's gotta look a little more 3D. So maybe we can do a couple of things. One, I can shade behind it a little bit, like throw some lines, scribble behind it, or I could go right here on the front throw a couple of curved lines right there to give it a little bit of a more of an idea to the audience that it's rounded out, right? To making it look a little bit more 3D. Or I could do, and I've taught you guys this, if you guys seen this, throwing in like a slightly thicker line in order to make that come forward. That's another thing you can do. I don't know if he's going to have a deltoid. He might. Let me see. I'll give him a little bit of a deltoid. Deltoid is the shoulder muscle right there. And there's usually the, oh man, what is it called? There's the front deltoid, the mid deltoid, and the back. And I don't remember what they're called. There's a name. Medial deltoid. And it's real easy. I can't remember. Anywho, but I guess I'll give him a little bit of a hint of one right there, right? And then maybe throw a little bit of a. You generally, here's another quote unquote like rule. Like here's a principle. You don't want these floating islands. So like example, I threw that shape in right there. I wasn't gonna just leave that line there willy nilly. It's got to connect back into something a little bit, even if it's like dot dot dot. Like it's got to connect a little bit to the larger image to make the overall graphic image look more readable. If none of that made sense, let me know. But you want to make it more readable to the eye, so somebody can look at it and go, "Oh, I get what's going on." But if somebody looks at it and they're like, "There's a bunch of little floating islands," like I mean, completely detached, it's gonna confuse it might confuse the viewer. It doesn't always. It might. Right? These are just principles. Right? Talked about that before. There's principles and rules. Principles are just saying like, yo, this has worked in the past. Just try it out. It'll probably work for you. And then a rule is like, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. And so drawing's more about principle, even though 90% of people do it like the same. As far as the structure and anatomy goes and all that stuff, I feel like 90% of it is pretty much like, Da Vinci and like Michelangelo and all that's like literally that's like the same kind of stuff we're using. Okay, let's look at it more closely. I need a dark in the armpit right here. The reason we want that is because we want to create a little bit of focus. And when you want, basically, it'll be the darkest in kind of his armpits pretty much and below his neck and his mouth. You want to like dot, like really dark area. So you have an idea of where to go. We could do it in here, but I'm going to save it for now. I'm going to wait. Maybe we don't need it right there. It's going to cause too much attention to you don't want your eye to shift to the spikes like right off the bat. You want it to shift into the face and kind of like look at, this general area and then zoom out. But yeah, thanks so much, Just Cozy. I'm going to go over here. All right. This is like the first literal entire drawing I'm doing on live, by the way. I've never done an entire drawing before. So normally, like I said, I've taken a sketch and just talked a little bit about just general tips for 10 minutes. I'm probably on here for half an hour now. All right, we're continuing to go back over here, and I'm trying to make the lines match. Let's move in this direction real quick. We'll go back to the spikes. Let's go to this guy's arm. Okay, his arm is right here. Actually, let me see. Yeah, his arm's all right. All right, let's go over here, and we're going to kind of go into it. See how this is a skeleton? Like, not literally a skeleton, but see how it's kind of like a skeleton of a drawing that more or less you can kind of go in and do whatever you want. I can shade it. I can put a lot of dark over here. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of choices I can make, right? And I want to emphasize that, and I've done it. I want to emphasize this almost every live. Art and drawing, your drawing is all about choices. It's about the choices that you make, and that's kind of what's going to make your stuff unique and different from other people's, is the fact that you're choosing to do this. So for example, I'm choosing to put this really dark right there. I'll put a dark over here. When you choose that, another artist might not choose that. They're just going to go like, a little bit more, just a little scratchy or larger lines, where there's like more line, how do you say that? There's more spaces between like the cross hatching, and then maybe they do neat or like a little bit more neat and cleaned up. That's where your style comes out. It comes out in like usually like stuff like that. There's definitely style when it comes to, the structure of your character, right? Like it's not like Rick and Morty drawing, right? I mean, that's totally different. But to a certain point, I see most of style come out like within color and shading and that kind of stuff. At least when it comes to drawing Godzilla. But of course, there's obviously different decisions, and so that's how to stand out. If you want to stand out, take influences right from who you admire, right, who your favorite artists are, and then alter those as you're working on your own stuff. You're like, okay, well, has anyone tried this? And they do like a really unique I don't know, unique way of doing that, or you wanna make your stuff look more like 80s anime or dang, okay, I'm trying to fix his finger here. So the finger's bending, it's a line out, and then he has a nail, so it's kinda he has a nail, right? He's got the claw, but this right here is bending right here, right there, and so he should have a fat pad right at the end of the finger there. For some reason, it's eluding me. Line over here, right here. All right, cool. It's starting to get a little better. Let me look at. I got to look back at the other hand periodically to make sure they match. Because sometimes you're like drawing this hand, you're like, oh, it looks pretty good. And you make a decision, you're like, whoa, that looks way bigger or way smaller. It could be smaller if it's further away, but you know what I mean? Like you want to make sure they look like they're from the same character. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I think it's all right. Let's see. That finger, that finger. Where's that last finger? I think it's probably going to stick out the back over here, right? It's probably the pinky one. Yeah, it's probably the pinky finger back there. And then we got to structure out this thumb, bruh. Let me see this. This thumb is not, okay. Thumb's not going to be as wide right there. And then now, like I said before, I'm basically putting one fat pad with the other one right there. Okie doke. I'm working on a drawing program as well. I'm just going to straight up do everything. And basically, the drawing program, the goal of it is to get somebody to draw something from their head without, without reference. Basically, it's kind of like, hey, you just want to sit down at your sketchbook and draw whatever you want. That's kind of what it's based on. Okay, hold on. I found a huge mistake. His middle finger needs to be longer than the other fingers. So I need to pull this shape right here out more. Okay, right there. Yeah. Okay. I think you might see a little bit of the palm over here too. See, that's the thing. You're kind of sorting this out. And at worst case scenario, you can always look at literally your own hand, right? You can look at your palm and go, okay, how does that go? You know what I'm saying? You can. Sorry if I'm like unfocusing the camera there, but let me know if the camera. Oh, dang, it's way out of focus, huh? Let's see, dude. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know it was out of focus like that. All right. I don't know what to do though. We're gonna have to do it there. I'll try to keep my hand down. Does that work? Okay. You can see the palm over here in the back, and it kind of connects over there. Yeah, this is that thinking in 3D thing. It's like we're talking about everything that I've been talking about for a while. You're literally thinking in a three-dimensional sense, meaning I'm thinking beyond his hand, beyond the side of the hand, and I'm thinking about the right here. I'm thinking about like the palm and how the fingers connect to the palm. And I have to think about that, even though just like a little sliver of nothing of it is showing. I don't know about that pinky, man. I don't know about that pinky. Okay, it's got to bend if it's going to do that goofy thing. It's got to bend a little bit. Maybe that'll work. Maybe that. Okay, that's under the topic of like things no one cares about except the artist. Yeah, I see that pinky looks a little small. Like I wish I could. If I ever scan this in, I'll like Photoshop it or something. Or not Photoshop. I gotta use a different word. I dumped Photoshop now. I don't know. That's gonna have to do. So it'll be right here. Yeah, that's gonna, and then just scratch that in there. Okay. All right, we're toying with this. We're making this work. I'm just gonna put a little bit of value over here to see if I can knock back some of these digits so that they just kind of fall back into space. I do not like this right the way it's coming out. It should be connected down here. Okay, cool. And then there you go. The fat pad over here. Okay. And then the fat pad kind of slips into the wrist over here. I'm going to teach that in the next lesson. So a lot of stuff with anatomy is like something locks into something else, right? So this finger locks into the fat pad of the hand, and that locks into it, like transitions into the wrist. And that's how it looks like in real life. So, and that's what's, good about it. But I want to kind of talk about that in drawing because there's something called rhythms too. Okay, there's no information right here, and I'm thinking, okay, Zilla, what up, Paul? There's no information right here. I need information there. There's got to be something because, he's not not blank. So he would have like maybe some tendons right here. Think about what would actually be there. You know, it goes to the wrist, right? Maybe the wrist itself. Look at your own wrist if you can. There's kind of like some aspects to the arm that have a little bit of 3D 3D effect on it. Let's see. So there'd be kind of a flat part of the hand right here, the back of the wrist. I would say my biggest critique for this right now would be the back part of the wrist right here is a little small from the knuckle, first knuckle. No, that's the first knuckle. There you go. It's a little, okay, actually it's a little big now. That's the thing too. You can also get lost in your own drawing because you're kind of thinking about like knuckles and stuff. You're just kind of like, what the heck? You know, you got to be careful because you can totally get lost in your own thought process. I've seen people do like 6 fingers a la AI, you know, because they're just like so focused on the shape and they'll put like 6 fingers or put like 4 fingers on like a human and they're like, huh, what? Dang. Because you're just kind of focused in on like abstract shapes and you're just like, circle, that's a circle, that's a smudge, that's a, you know, so you're not really thinking of them like human as much as you're thinking of them as like parts of like a machine, pretty much. All right, let's go over down here, give it a little bit more shadow right there along the arm. We might be able to knock back that entire thing. All right, let's see what we're looking like. Zilla. Mothra, my bad. Ha, it's funny. It's okay. It's okay. I give this as far as Godzilla, my Godzilla drawings go, I give it a okay. Like I give it like a B. For because some stuff's a little messy, but I guess you know, I like it. That's a style in itself, messy. It's gonna be controlled messy. I'm gonna do a video on that too. I gotta write these video ideas down. But that controlled messy thing is totally a style. But the problem is you have to know what you're doing, or it's just messy. Right? That's like the whole problem with it. Okay. Let's see what else. I'm gonna see if that's kind of dark right here. I'm going to throw some more dark over here in like this portion of the wrist. And that's called a core shadow. Talking like about everything here. Core shadow, basically. So basically when as far as okay, so for shadow and lighting is almost always coming from above, whether it be natural or, because it's got to be natural for this guy, right? Because Godzilla's not going to be indoors or it's indoor lighting, but it's almost always coming from above. The light source comes from above. It goes down, usually bounces off something. Like on his case, it'll probably bounce off his leg a little bit and then shoot up some sun here, just a little. And then it's going to create this thing called a core shadow. It's like a band of dark that goes along the whole thing because it's getting reflected light from himself. But you're going to see that everywhere. You just see it all the time. I don't know, but like that's probably like one of the basics of shading. And you know, we don't want to make this as light. We'll probably like, see, I don't want to make it like white or anything, but I want to make it lighter than normal because if it's too light, it's going to look like the T-1000 or something. It's going to look shiny. So you don't want to make it totally white. All right, let's see. Going down over here. Rest of the snake belly going on. I think this might be fine. I'll probably just, if I have to do another video on this, I'll do it. But this is good enough. I'm tired. I know. Okay. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. That was the first, like, you know, just straight up drawing from nothing kind of thing. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe I'll work on it again tomorrow. We'll see. See you.